have you ever actually looked at your bank statement and wondered, what's the real story here? I mean, beyond all the coffee runs and the monthly subscriptions, what does it say about what you really care about? Well, today we're diving into this pretty powerful idea that where our money goes is probably the most honest thing we can say about our priorities.
It's a tough yardstick, right? But it's an honest one. We can all talk a good game about our priorities, but our calendar and our bank account, they don't have an agenda. They just don't lie. They tell the real, unfiltered story of what actually matters to us.
And listen, for me, this wasn't just some abstract theory. It all started with a very personal and, frankly, a really uncomfortable realization that was hiding deep inside my own spending habits.
This was my mantra. I said it to myself, to my partner, pretty much to anyone who would listen. And it felt true. It really did. It was the value I identified with the most, the whole story I thought I was building my life around. But then I actually sat down and looked at my expenses, and the numbers, well, they painted a completely different picture. The data was crystal clear, and it was the total opposite of the story I'd been telling myself for years.
And that led to a pretty jarring realization. It turns out I was living a paradox. There was this huge split between the person I said I was and the person my bank account was proving I was.
And here was the conflict, right there in black and white. On one side, you had my big statement, family comes first. But on the other side, you had the financial reality. Most of my extra money was just going toward, immediate personal comforts, not long-term family goals.
Seeing this breakdown was a real shock to the system. That tiny little sliver right there, that represented what I was actually investing in my so-called #1 priority. It's not that spending on comfort is bad, but the proportions told the real story. My actions were totally out of sync with my words.
It was just deeply unsettling. It felt like my actions were quietly betraying my own words. I wasn't in sync with myself, and it created this constant low-level hum of guilt that I couldn't quite put my finger on.
But you know what? That uncomfortable truth, it ended up being a catalyst. The shock was the exact wake-up call I needed to just stop, take a breath, and figure out how to make a real change.
It was one of those moments that just stops you in your tracks. All the self-deception just kind of melted away, and I knew I couldn't keep going like that. I had to face one very, very difficult question. And in the end, it all boiled down to this one thing. Do I want my kids to hear me say they're my priority, or do I want them to actually see it in everything I do? The answer was obvious, and honestly, it changed everything.
So from that point on, the goal became super simple: alignment. I had to consciously connect my financial choices directly to the values I said I had. I needed a practical system to bridge that gap.
And this became my new framework. It was pretty simple. If I say I value education, then I need to actually invest in it. If health really matters, then I have to budget for it. If I want security, well then savings have to become automatic. Every single value was now tied to a real, concrete financial action.
And what's wild is that this logic, it applies perfectly to our other most precious resource, our time. Where you invest your hours is just as telling as where you invest your dollars. Your calendar, just like your bank statement, always tells the truth.
Now, this definitely required a big shift in mindset. It's really about understanding trade-offs. Saying no to some small, tempting thing today becomes so much easier when you realize you're actually saying yes to a much bigger goal tomorrow.
So the practical benefits were pretty clear, but getting everything aligned also had this completely unexpected side effect, a really profound sense of inner peace.
That feeling of being divided, of living in that paradox, it just melts away. There's this incredible sense of integrity that comes from knowing your actions are actually in harmony with your beliefs. You finally feel like one whole person again, not two.
And suddenly, your bank statement goes from being a source of guilt to being a confirmation that you're on the right track. Money stops feeling like this enemy, and it becomes what it's supposed to be, just a tool to help you build the life you actually want to live.
And maybe the most powerful outcome of all is what this teaches people around you, especially the next generation, without you ever having to say a word. They see the responsibility in your choices, they see the discipline in your savings, and they learn that what you do is so much more important than what you say.
So, I'll leave you with the same question that started this whole journey for me. If you take a really honest look at your last month's spending, at your calendar, what does the evidence say your real values are? The answer might just surprise you.